Good morning, buongiorno, bonjour, guten Morgen. I hope it's okay to speak in English. My French, German, Italian is rubbish. I'm very stereotypically British in that regard. So thank you very much for the invitation to speak today. It's a real pleasure to meet all of you and to connect with you all and to share more about what Cruelty Free International is doing to secure a global ban on cosmetics animal testing. For those of you that don't know, Cruelty Free International is one of the leading organisations working to end animal testing worldwide. We're based in London, but we work across the world promoting the use of non-animal alternatives in science and working with decision makers and politicians to create a legislative environment where testing on animals is increasingly prohibited and accepted by the public. At Cruelty Free International, we may know us by our previous name, which was the British Union on Anti-Vivisection, the BUAV. We changed names in 2013 or 12 perhaps now to reflect more of a global approach to our work. And I'm the public affairs advisor here, so I focus more on our political campaign, specifically at the UN. So I'm also very looking forward to learning a bit more about the science as well with all of you today. Thank you. So you may question why the United Nations for our campaign, given that it's historically always been a human-dominated space. It focuses on political peace issues, humanitarian, security issues. So why animal testing? And the vision for our UN campaign, which began at the start of 2015 really, but it formally got going in 2017. And we looked at the founding United Nations Charter, which was written in 1945 when the creation of the UN following the Second World War. And it specifically calls on the UN to harmonise the actions of nations in the attachment of common ends, including international problems of an economic, social and cultural character. Therefore, given the need to harmonise the global framework around cosmetics animal testing and to promote a more humane and ethical approach to business and science, we believe that the United Nations is a natural destination for this campaign and for our work. And today I'm just going to briefly speak about what the campaign is, what we're calling for, how we want to achieve it, and then some ideas around what we could all do in this room perhaps to support it as well. Thank you. So, what we're explicitly calling for at the United Nations is a geographically diverse set of UN member states to co-sponsor a General Assembly resolution. So a couple of key factors. The UN is made up of 192 member states. It is, when you're lobbying there, the key thing is to remember that it's voluntary, whereby our national governments have a responsibility to be accountable to its citizens. The UN is a voluntary organisation. It's important to remember that member states go there on goodwill rather than accountability. So we have to work in a positive framework always. And the General Assembly is the main convening and legislative body of the UN. It is where all 192 member states come together to vote on issues via a simple majority. And we have decided this is the main route. We want to they decide on resolutions. They pass resolutions through 6 major committees as well. And we want this resolution at the UN to establish what's known as an ad hoc committee, which will be chaired initially by one of the sponsoring countries. And so an ad hoc committee is following previous examples that have happened at the UN, whereby member states informally get together and look at an issue in greater depth to understand and to really lay the groundwork, the framework for a future ban. And we believe that one of the sponsoring countries at the start will be the growing number of countries who have national bans on cosmetics testing, as well as the European Union, and but not limited at all to this. And we really the key thing to emphasize here is geographical diversity between developed and developing countries as well. And we ideally countries to sponsor the resolution, one from each continent ideally. And this ad hoc committee will consider the preparation and the mechanism that's needed to establish an international agreement against the testing of animals for cosmetics use. So, like I said, it is about taking gradual steps, or what's going to happen, what's needed at the global level to enact a ban, working with industry, with consumers, with scientific and research institutions as well, and with national governments. So, I will very quickly run through this, just to reiterate what's already been said about the European Parliament. 4 main factors. It calls upon the presence of all the EU institutions to promote, advocate and facilitate a global ban, in particular with the UN Secretary General, who's the leading figure at the United Nations. Secondly, calls on the Commission and the Council and the Member States to use their networks and act in determination, as we're saying, with bilateral and multilateral partners, to build a strong and broad coalition. And I can't reiterate this enough, it's so important. When we're trying to achieve work at the United Nations, you need this coalition of member states to be as big and diverse as possible. When we're trying to secure a global ban, the issue cannot be seen perhaps too much as a European-led one, as us in the West perhaps imposing on other countries worldwide. So that's key to the fact. The third point is, as mentioned, calls on the Commission, Council member states to facilitate, promote an international convention within the UN framework, so as I mentioned, within the General Assembly, and calls on member states to include a global ban in the next agenda, an agenda item in the next meeting of the General Assembly. So the General Assembly meets from September to September in sessions, so the next session will be in 2019 to 2020. That's our aim. And then the fourth bit, very quickly, calls for an introduction of a ban on international trade as well. So, as Massimo said. Cool. Next slide. So, just very quickly to highlight some of the responses that we've had from the Commission and the Council on this, and it's been really successful for us already. It's obviously been great to create political and public awareness on the issue, to secure a European Parliament resolution. And then also, secondly, it's fantastic to have a public show of support from the European Parliament in demanding leadership from the European Union to secure a global ban. And thirdly, it's helped us progress in our work with member states of the United Nations and with governments representatives in missions in New York. So the Commission, in their response, specifically stated, and you'll see it in bold there, that their support will go in particular to any initiative by EU member states proposing a UN resolution on this matter. So this is the key point, that the Commission will support one of the 27 member states who want to propose this at the UN, which is great. It means that we will have the support of the 27 member states. And the Commission will continue to promote the EU ban through its international activities, both bilaterals and multilaterals. And then the European Council also provided a very supportive statement on this issue, looking at examining attentively any recommendations from the Commission, and while stating that negotiations for this global ban, whilst led by the Commission, leading the negotiations, would have to come from a Council mandate. So they're just setting out the procedures for this. Cool. And this is from, the Commissioner Elżbieta Bieńkowska. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I hope so. She's the Commissioner for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, who stated that the time is ripe for global action. We are thinking carefully about how to do this, and a global ban is, of course, one option. So, yes, therefore, support at the highest levels of the European Union to begin mobilising action is really key. but we love now, like, what's also important when trying to achieve a UN ban is to remember that representatives in New York at the UN take directives from their national counterparts in capitals. So it's incredibly important to keep up our advocacy and support building activities in these national contexts, recognizing the fact that capitals will often direct their representatives in New York whichever way they want. So a couple of ideas that we have that perhaps anyone who, for you guys in your national governments to take up, include sort of working with national parliamentarians that you may be friendly with or supportive with, who are supportive on this issue, to submit questions in parliamentary debates and discussions around relevant legislation, whether that's perhaps on trade, business, chemicals, or sustainable development goals. Perhaps like a question on, do they expect, what support are they doing to help secure a global ban? Working with these parliaments to send questions to the relevant government ministers, whether that is, the Minister for Environment or Trade or Business Development Industry. This is a really great way of securing a formal response from the government on whether it's written or oral, getting their position on the record so that you can build from it and begin working with them. And just a really effective way of building awareness and recognition within the national governments. And finally, using your national parliamentary procedures. And what we have, for example, is here in the UK, we have what's known as an early day motion, so an EDM or a Westminster Hall debate. And these are procedures whereby MPs can put their name to a motion to support it, to showcase it. They don't hold a great level of power to change official government policy yet, but they're a really strong way of MPs going on the record saying they support our issue, and beginning to convene parliamentarians around supporting a global ban for cosmetics animal testing. Next slide. I'm just going to run through a couple of quick examples of how we've done this and how we've used it successfully across the European Union. And the first here, I'm not sure if you can see, I hope so, is an official extract from a question in the Swedish Parliament where an MP for the Left Party, Jens Holm, sent a question to the Ministry of Social Affairs regarding the Swedish government's support for a global ban. And this was following up and referencing a previous question from Birgitta Olsen, who was a Liberal MP, who also sent a similar question to Miss Annika Strandhøj, who was the minister. And this is just really important to, as I mentioned, to get it on the issue and to start building a relationship with the relevant minister in the national parliaments, who can then work with their counterparts in the United Nations in New York. Second example of this is a screenshot from, as I mentioned, this early day motion in the UK. By the end of this current parliamentary session, we have had 118 MPs from the UK out of 650 support this. Early day motions are a formal motion submitted for debate in the main house, the House of Commons. Very few are actually become government policy, but as I mentioned, they are a really strong way of allowing MPs to draw attention to a specific event or a cause, and they're a useful tool to work with parliamentarians. MPs register their support by signing these individual motions online, and they're very varied and mixed, but as you can see, this one has got some really good support, and this EDM specifically mentions, I'm not sure if you can read it, but the growing support for a global ban, seeing the European Union's ban as well, and it calls on the UK government to lead this initiative at the UN, explicitly referencing our work as Cruelty Free International as well. So it's a really good advocacy tool to have, and the key thing to note is that where it says sponsors, we've got 5 sponsors there and a primary sponsor, and each of these are from the 5 main major political parties in the UK, recognising that there's a broad political consensus for change in the UK. That's been really key to the support so it's not just an issue of the right or the left, the centre, it's an issue for everyone, for the Greens, the Conservatives as well. Thank you. This is a screenshot, a formal transcript from what's known as a Westminster Hall debate in the UK that we secured earlier in the UK Parliament this year. It was hosted by an MP, Lisa Cameron, of the Scottish National Party, the third largest in the UK. And the debate was held under the topic of cosmetics testing on animals. And yeah, you'll see on the 1st of May there. So this is and we helped prepare the speech, for example, for Mrs. Cameron. So therefore, it's a good example, good advocacy opportunity for us to help get this issue, get the right language onto the agenda in the UK Parliament. And the debate happens at 30 minutes, so it's quite small, quite short. MPs turn up and they raise their concerns, raise their support for their campaign, and they go off. And it's just a good way to note which MPs are supportive of your issue, to get on the formal agenda, and then moving on successfully. As I mentioned, whilst each procedure holds no formal power to influence the government, all of these examples have helped build the necessary ground support within a national parliament context for our issue. They're just some examples of like a number of different levers of power that we're trying to influence to get support, awareness, and willingness to take action, which then is sort of taken and transported to the United Nations in New York from capitals, from London, from Stockholm, Brussels, to New York and to the United Nations. Of course, parliamentarians are not the only key stakeholders to be influencing, and to try and reach out to. Celebrity ambassadors have been a really important tool for us at Cruelty Free International in our advocacy strategy, given their ability, the sheer ability and the numbers they can reach, and to influence millions of their supporters online. For example, we had a petition with our partners, The Body Shop, calling on a global ban, which received a staggering 8.3 million signatures worldwide recently, and we handed that to the United Nations. And a key mobiliser of signatures was tweets from celebrities. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like Ricky Gervais in the UK is a very important. We have at the UN we had a lady called Maggie Hughes, a US actress who's in some shows there. We had a Bollywood star, Jacqueline Fernandez, as well. And this is a lady called Mayim Bialik from the US show The Big Bang Theory. And so just little tweets, quotes like this go a long way in really mobilising public support. And what we do is therefore we create templates and examples for members of the public to then lobby their MPs as well on this issue. So it's a really important tool for us when building the support for a global ban. And so that's it really. Thank you very much for your time. I'd look forward to any questions later on, and get into this topic in a bit more detail. Thank you.